Hi everyone, today I'm going to do my latest Christian fiction wrap-up and TBR. Here are the books that I've read recently. Firstly, I read The Warrior Maiden by Melanie Dickerson. This is a historical fiction. It is a retelling of the fairy tale Mulan set in 15th century Europe. This is the 9th book in the Hagenheim series. I really enjoyed this book. I found it fairly fast-paced throughout, and there was plenty of action and emotion. This story follows Mulan, who disguises herself as a man so she can go to war in place of her father. She has to learn to be a soldier, whilst keeping her true identity a secret. There she meets Wolfgang, the son of a German duke, and together they have to fight to protect their allies from the Teutonic Knights. I found the developing relationship between Mulan and Wolfgang really sweet, and it contrasted well with the realities of being in a war. The Christian aspects were strong and the characters enjoyable. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next I read The Secrets of Paper and Ink by Lindsay Harrell. This is a dual time period novel. I loved this book. I was really drawn into the characters, their personal struggles, and their different relationships. The story follows 3 characters, Sophia, Ginny and Emily. Sophia travels to Cornwall in an attempt to recover from the death of her fiancé. She ends up working in a bookshop run by Ginny, who is struggling to make ends meet after her husband left her to find himself. In the bookshop they find a notebook that contains the story of Emily Fairfax, who was a governess with dreams of becoming a writer. Sophia feels connected to this woman, and she thinks that if she can find out what happened to her, then it will somehow help her find her own healing. Lindsay Harrell weaves these 3 stories together in a way that makes sense, and keeps the plot moving forward throughout the book. I loved this book, I think, even more than Lindsay's first book. The faith content is minimal to begin with, but it builds as the story goes on. I loved the setting because it reminds me of the holidays I've spent in Cornwall. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. The last book I read was Flight of the Raven by Morgan L. Bussey. This is a Christian fantasy novel and the second book in the Ravenwood saga, and I really loved it. This story continues to follow Celine Ravenwood, who is part of an ancient great family who have the ability to dream walk. This means she is able to go into other people's dreams and explore their secret fears and desires. In the first book, Mark of the Raven, we saw her come into her gift and undergo training in how to use it. In this book, we get to explore more of the world and the different kingdoms. We also see how some of the other gifts work. As the story progresses, Celine learns more about her gift and the spiritual forces at work in the world, and we get to see how the different relationships grow and change. The Christian symbolism is fantastic, but totally embedded in the world, and at no point did I feel like I was being preached at. The story builds up to a crescendo, and now I really want to read the last book in this series. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. So that was my wrap-up. Here are the books that I want to read next. Up from the Sea by Amanda Dyke. This is a historical romance novella. It's free on Kindle and is apparently a prequel to her novel Whose Ways These Are. This is a story set in a New England forest where a woman called Savannah is leading an expedition into the woods to discover the truth about the stories concerning the atonement tree. That's about all I know from the synopsis, but it sounds interesting and mysterious. Another book that I want to read is Far Side of the Sea by Kate Breslin. This is a historical fiction novel set in World War I. This story follows Lieutenant Colin Maybury, who decodes messages during World War I. He receives a summons from a woman he thought to be dead and goes to Paris. But the woman he meets there is actually her half-sister Johanna, who works for French Army intelligence. She believes her sister is alive, and they travel across France and Spain to find her. They end up heading into the midst of a treacherous plot and having to fight for their lives. Another book that I want to read is Castle on the Rise by Christy Cambron. This is a multi-perspective novel and is the second book in the Lost Castle series. It is told from 3 different perspectives. This book follows Lainey Forrester, who is travelling to her friend's fairy tale wedding, but unfortunately something goes wrong and Lainey accompanies them to Ireland, where she is drawn into the Irish landscape and a mysterious castle with hidden secrets. She learns about the stories of Issy, a photojournalist battling through the 1916 Easter Rising, and Maeve, the castle's lady of legend, fighting for survival through the 1798 rebellion. The final book that I want to read next is Wooing Kady McCaffrey by Bethany Turner. I believe this is a contemporary romantic comedy. This story follows Kady McCaffrey, who believes that her boyfriend Will doesn't love her enough to marry her. After a misunderstanding, she decides to end the relationship before it's too late. But Will thinks otherwise and begins a quest to win her back. He does this by drawing on advice from his friends and the romantic comedies that Kady loves. I'm not sure what order I'm going to read these books in, but I usually like to mix up my genres so that I don't get bored. How about you? Which books have you read recently? Have you read any of the ones that I've mentioned today? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, goodbye.